The night sky above Earth was quiet, stars blinking softly like tiny lamps in the dark. People were sleeping, streets were calm, and only a few guards stood awake in silent cities. Then without warning, the ground shook, alarms blared, and the sky lit up as something massive entered orbit. A colossal alien warship covered the horizon, its black metal surface shining like a mirror of death. The ship was larger than any human city, stretching across the sky, blocking the moonlight. Within seconds, every screen, every radio, and every speaker on Earth turned on by itself. A deep voice echoed across the planet, heavy and commanding. "Human, you will inspect me now." The words carried a force that shook hearts. It was the voice of the alien warlord, a name whispered in fear across the galaxy. People froze, governments panicked. Scientists ran to their computers trying to decode the signal. But the message was simple, direct, and terrifying. The warlord did not ask. He ordered. One human must be sent to his flagship, not an army, not a leader, but a single inspector. Presidents and generals gathered in secret rooms, their faces pale. What did the warlord mean by inspection? Was it a trick, a trap, or some strange alien ritual? No one knew, but the demand was clear. If humanity refused, the warlord's ship would turn Earth into ash inside a quiet laboratory. A man named Daniel, a scientist with tired eyes and steady hands, was awakened by guards. He was dragged before the council. One of the generals pointed at him. "You have studied alien physiology. You will go." Daniel's heart sank. He had never left Earth, never even been on an airplane. Now they were sending him to face the most feared alien in the galaxy. He tried to protest. "I am not the right choice. I am not a soldier. I am not a diplomat." But no one listened. The order had come from above. The warlord had chosen him, maybe because he was unknown, maybe because he was ordinary, or maybe because the alien leader wanted someone who would not lie. Daniel stood trembling as the alien warship sent down a beam of light. It wrapped around him like a cage, pulling him from Earth's soil into the endless dark of space. He closed his eyes, feeling weightless, his ears filled with the echo of the warlord's command. "Inspect me now." When Daniel opened his eyes, he was standing in a vast chamber made of black stone and glowing veins of blue light. The air was heavy, as if it carried the weight of thousands of battles. Alien soldiers with sharp armor surrounded him, their eyes cold, their weapons glowing. At the far end of the hall, a throne rose like a mountain, and on that throne sat the warlord. He was taller than any human, his body wrapped in armor that seemed alive, shifting and pulsing with energy. His eyes were burning red. His voice was deeper than thunder. "Human," he growled. The sound alone made Daniel's knees weaken. "You will inspect me now." Daniel could not speak. His mouth was dry, his mind blank. He looked at the warlord and felt like an ant staring at a volcano. But the alien leaned forward, demanding obedience. The warlord stood up, his footsteps shaking the hall. He removed part of his armor, revealing scars across his chest. Strange glowing marks that looked like wounds but pulsed with power. He pointed at the scars with his massive hand. "Inspect," the warlord ordered. The alien soldiers hissed, their weapons ready. Daniel knew if he hesitated, they would strike him down instantly. His heart pounded. He forced his trembling hands to move. Slowly approaching the warlord, he could feel the heat radiating from the alien's body. The scars looked alive, moving like rivers of fire beneath the skin. Daniel bent closer, pretending to examine, but inside he was filled with fear. What was the warlord hiding? Why would he force a human of all creatures to look at his body? Daniel remembered the whispers in research files. Some said the warlord was invincible. Others claimed he carried a curse. As Daniel leaned closer, the warlord's eyes locked onto his, burning like flames. "Tell me the truth, human, or your world will burn." Daniel's throat closed. He could not answer, not yet. His eyes studied the glowing scars, and for a moment he thought he saw something impossible, something the warlord did not want anyone to know. The silence in the hall grew heavy. Alien soldiers watched like predators, waiting for a signal. The warlord breathed slowly, like a storm waiting to break. Daniel realized the inspection was not about health or medicine. It was a test, a dangerous game. One wrong word, one wrong move, and Earth would pay the price. His hands shook. Sweat dripped down his face, and the warlord leaned even closer, his voice a whisper now, colder and sharper than a blade. "Inspect me, human, and do not lie." And in that moment, Daniel knew his life and the life of his entire planet. Balanced on the edge of his next word, Daniel stood frozen under the burning eyes of the alien warlord. His hands trembled, but he forced himself to step closer. The air inside the throne hall was heavy, thick with fear. Every alien soldier glared at him, their claws resting on weapons that glowed like fire. One wrong move and they would end him without mercy. The warlord spread his arms wide, his deep voice echoing across the chamber. "Human, I offer you my body. Inspect what no alien dares to see." His words were both command and threat. Daniel's mind raced. Why would the most feared warrior in the galaxy reveal his body to a fragile human? The scars across the warlord's chest glowed brighter, pulsing like rivers of molten light. They looked alive, twisting, and shifting beneath the skin. Daniel bent closer, his heartbeat louder than the silence. He reached out carefully, his fingers almost touching the alien flesh. Suddenly, one of the alien generals hissed, "This is madness. Why trust a weak creature of Earth?" The warlord snapped his head toward the general, his roar shaking the walls. "Silence! He will obey, or you will die." The general bowed in fear, but his eyes burned with hatred for Daniel. Daniel forced himself to speak, his voice shaking. "These marks, they are not just scars. They are alive." Whispers filled the hall. Alien soldiers exchanged uneasy looks. The warlord growled, "You see what others cannot. Speak more." Daniel leaned closer, studying the glowing wounds. He noticed something strange. Each scar pulsed like a heartbeat, but not the warlord's heartbeat. It was something different, something separate. It was as if another life form lived inside him. His mind screamed at him to stay silent, but his mouth spoke before he could stop. "This is not only a wound, it is a parasite." A heavy silence fell. Alien soldiers hissed, their weapons raised. The generals shouted in rage, accusing Daniel of lies. The warlord raised his hand and the hall fell silent, his burning eyes locked onto Daniel. "You speak truth, human," the warlord said slowly, his voice like thunder rolling across a battlefield. "Yes, a creature hides within me, feeding on my strength. My empire cannot know. If they sense weakness, I am finished." Daniel's heart pounded. He had uncovered the warlord's darkest secret. The invincible ruler was not invincible at all. He was infected, dying slowly from something that no alien doctor could cure. And now Daniel alone carried this knowledge. The warlord leaned down, his face inches from Daniel's trembling form. "You will continue the inspection. Find the truth of this infection, or Earth will burn." Alien guards stepped closer, surrounding Daniel in a circle. Their glowing eyes followed his every movement. He had no escape. He was their prisoner and their only hope. Daniel forced himself to speak, his voice shaking. "These marks, they are not just scars, they are alive." Whispers filled the hall. Alien soldiers exchanged uneasy looks. The warlord growled, "You see what others cannot. Speak more." Daniel leaned closer, studying the glowing wounds. He noticed something strange. Each scar pulsed like a heartbeat, but not the warlord's heartbeat. It was something different, something separate. It was as if another life form lived inside him. His mind screamed at him to stay silent, but his mouth spoke before he could stop. "This is not only a wound, it is a parasite." A heavy silence fell. Alien soldiers hissed, their weapons raised. The general shouted in rage, accusing Daniel of lies. The warlord raised his hand and the hall fell silent, his burning eyes locked onto Daniel. "You speak truth, human," the warlord said slowly, his voice like thunder rolling across a battlefield. "Yes, a creature hides within me, feeding on my strength. My empire cannot know if they sense weakness. I am finished." Daniel's heart pounded. He had uncovered the warlord's darkest secret. The invincible ruler was not invincible at all. He was infected, dying slowly from something that no alien doctor could cure. And now Daniel alone carried this knowledge. The warlord leaned down, his face inches from Daniel's trembling form. "You will continue the inspection. Find the truth of this infection, or Earth will burn." Alien guards stepped closer, surrounding Daniel in a circle. Their glowing eyes followed his every movement. He had no escape. He was their prisoner and their only hope. Daniel forced himself to continue. His hands moved across the scars, feeling the heat. The texture was not skin, not even flesh. It was like touching stone that pulsed with fire. Suddenly, the scars twitched and something inside moved. Daniel pulled back in shock. Our Lord groaned, his massive body shaking. The hall trembled as he slammed his fist into the throne. "Faster, human, tell me what this thing is." Daniel swallowed hard, his voice quiet. "It is not only feeding, it is spreading." Gasps filled the chamber. The alien generals whispered in panic. Some shouted that the human must be killed before he spread lies. Others demanded the parasite be removed at once. Chaos filled the hall, but the warlord roared louder than them all. "Silence! I will hear only the human." Daniel felt the pressure on his chest, as if the entire fate of Earth pressed down on him. He realized something deeper. This parasite was not just killing the warlord, it was changing him, maybe even controlling him. And then a thought struck him, a dangerous thought. What if the parasite was the real ruler? What if the warlord himself was only a puppet? The warlord's glowing eyes narrowed, as if reading Daniel's thoughts. "Speak what you think," he demanded. Daniel's voice cracked. "This parasite is not only inside you, it may be guiding you, controlling your will." A deadly silence fell again. Even the alien soldiers froze. No one had ever spoken to the warlord like that. No one had dared to suggest he was not in control. The air felt like it would explode. The warlord grabbed Daniel by the front of his shirt, lifting him into the air. His grip was iron, his red eyes blazing. "If you lie, your world dies now." Daniel gasped for breath, but forced the words out. "I do not lie. I can feel it. This thing wants more than your strength. It wants to spread to others." The warlord dropped him. Daniel fell to the ground, coughing. The alien leader turned his gaze upward, as if listening to something no one else could hear. His scars glowed brighter. The parasite inside pulsed like it was answering. The warlord growled, "If what you say is true, human, then this parasite is my greatest enemy, greater than your Earth, greater than any empire, and you will help me destroy it." Daniel stared up in shock, his body shaking. The warlord's command was not a request, it was law. But deep inside, Daniel wondered, was he helping the warlord or helping the parasite? And which of them was the greater danger to Earth? The hall darkened. The warlord raised his arms. "From this moment, human, your inspection is no longer a choice. It is destiny." And as the chamber shook with his roar, Daniel realized he was trapped in a war far larger than Earth could imagine. The chamber shook with silence after the warlord's words. Daniel stood weakly, his breath uneven, but his eyes locked on the glowing scars. Something about them pulled at him. They were not just wounds. They were alive, whispering like hidden voices inside the warlord's flesh. The alien guards formed a circle around him, their weapons raised but waiting. They did not trust the human. They wanted him gone. Yet the warlord had chosen him. His command was final. No one could defy it. Slowly, the warlord began removing more of his living armor. Each piece fell with a thunderous clang, revealing more of his body. Daniel's stomach twisted beneath the plates of black metal. The warlord's skin glowed like molten stone. Cracks spread across it like burning rivers. Some parts moved on their own, as if something under the skin was shifting. Daniel whispered almost to himself, "This is not armor, this is a prison." The warlord's eyes narrowed. "What do you see, human?" Daniel hesitated, then spoke. "Your body is fighting itself. The scars are not wounds, they are seals. Something inside you wants to break free." The words echoed through the hall like a blade. Alien generals hissed. Some cried that the human should be killed for speaking such blasphemy. Others whispered fearfully, their voices shaking. The warlord slammed his fist into the throne, cracks spreading across the stone. "He speaks the truth. I feel it every hour. The parasite grows restless. It speaks in my dreams. It whispers of conquest, even beyond my own will." Daniel shivered. He realized the warlord's strength was not his own. It was borrowed from something ancient and terrifying, something that had chosen him as a host. As he studied the glowing cracks, he noticed symbols forming on the warlord's skin, shapes that looked like language, not random, but deliberate. It was as if the parasite was writing its own story across his body. Daniel leaned closer, his heart pounding. Suddenly, the scars pulsed violently. Light flashed, and Daniel was thrown back. Visions filled his mind. He saw endless stars burning, fleets of alien warships falling like dust, and at the center of it all, a black shape with many eyes whispering in a voice deeper than death. "We are coming," the voice said. Daniel gasped, his body shaking as the vision faded. The warlord loomed over him, his burning eyes searching. "You saw it, did you not, human?" Daniel nodded slowly. "Yes, I saw them," the general shouted in panic. Some cried that the parasite was a myth from ancient times. Others insisted the human was cursed, the throne hall filled with chaos. But the warlord raised his massive hand, and all fell silent. "The parasite has chosen to reveal itself to you, human. It hides from my kind, but it speaks to yours. Tell me why," the warlord demanded. Daniel struggled to breathe, his voice shaking. "Maybe because humans are different. Maybe because we are not bound by the same laws as your people. Maybe it thinks we are useful." The warlord's face darkened, his body shivered. The glowing scars burned brighter. "Useful or dangerous," he muttered. The parasite within him pulsed again. Daniel could feel it. The air itself vibrated. Alien guards stepped back in fear, their weapons shaking in their hands. Daniel's mind raced. He realized the parasite was more than an infection. It was intelligent, it was alive, and it was ancient, older than the warlord, older than the empire, maybe even older than the galaxy itself. And then he noticed something that made his blood run cold. One of the scars had spread to the warlord's arm, forming a mark shaped like an eye. And that eye moved, it blinked, and for a split second, it looked directly at Daniel. He stumbled back, whispering, "It sees me," the warlord roared, his voice shaking the chamber. "Then you cannot leave, human. If it sees you, you are bound to this war." Daniel's legs trembled. He wanted to scream, but he forced himself to stay silent. Every part of his body told him to run, but there was nowhere to run. He was trapped on a ship of enemies with a monster inside, a monster staring at him. The warlord leaned close, his massive face filling Daniel's vision, his burning eyes locked onto him. "You will tell me what it wants. You will dig into its secrets. If you fail, your earth will burn with you." Daniel tried to steady his breath, but his thoughts raced. If the parasite was intelligent, if it could see him, then maybe it could also reach him. Even inside his mind, he shivered, remembering the voice in the vision. "We are coming," the warlord growled. "Begin your inspection deeper, human. I will show you what no creature has seen and lived." Suddenly the floor beneath the throne opened, revealing a dark stairway leading down into the heart of the flagship. Heat rose from below, along with a low humming sound like a heartbeat the size of a planet. The warlord pointed down. "The parasite's core rests below. If you survive, you will know its truth." Daniel stared into the darkness. The hum grew louder. His chest tightened. The parasite was waiting, alive, aware. And for the first time, Daniel wondered, was Earth truly safer if he uncovered the secret? Or was he walking into a trap that could doom them all? The stairway beneath the throne was black and endless. Each step Daniel took echoed like thunder. The air grew hotter, thicker. Every breath felt like fire entering his lungs. Behind him, alien guards followed in silence, their glowing weapons pointed at his back. Above them, the warlord's shadow loomed, his heavy footsteps shaking the stairs. The deeper they went, the louder the hum became. It was no longer a sound, it was a heartbeat, ancient and powerful. It rattled through Daniel's bones. His skin prickled as if invisible fingers touched him. He tried not to look back, but he could feel the warlord's burning eyes locked on him, watching every move. Finally, they reached a massive door carved with strange symbols. They pulsed with light, alive like veins. Daniel ran his hand across the marks, and for a brief second, he felt something enter his mind. A whisper, cold and endless. "We know you, human." Daniel staggered back, his chest tight, but the warlord pushed past him, placing his massive hand on the door. The symbols flared, the door split open with a grinding roar. Beyond it stretched a cavern of pulsing light. Inside, Daniel saw it, the parasite's core, a mass of black flesh covered in glowing eyes. Each eye moved, blinking slowly, watching. The entire chamber pulsed like a beating heart. Every beat shook the ground. Every pulse made Daniel's vision blur. The warlord spread his arms, his voice echoing, "Behold, the parasite that chains me." Daniel's knees weakened. His body wanted to collapse. The eyes of the parasite turned to him, one by one, blinking in unison. He heard whispers in his head, not one voice but thousands, overlapping like waves. Human, fragile yet strong, flesh yet fire, you are not bound, you are free. Daniel pressed his hands to his arse. But the voices were inside him, inside his mind. The warlord's roar cut through the noise. "Speak, human, what does it say?" Daniel gasped. It knows me. It calls me free." The warlord's eyes burned, his fists clenched. "It never speaks to us, only to you. Why?" The parasite pulsed again. The chamber shook, dust fell from the ceiling. Daniel heard clearer words this time. "He is not master, he is vessel. You are choice, you are path," Daniel whispered, trembling. "It does not see you as ruler, it sees you as a shell." The warlord roared in rage, his voice shaking the walls. He struck the ground with his massive fists, cracks spreading like lightning. The guards stepped back in fear, but Daniel could see something more. Behind the rage was fear, a fear the warlord could not hide. For the first time, Daniel understood. The warlord was terrified, not of death, not of war, but of losing himself, of becoming nothing more than a cage for the parasite. The warlord turned sharply, grabbing Daniel by the collar, lifting him from the ground. "Tell me, human, tell me if I am already lost." Daniel struggled to breathe, his eyes wide. "No, not yet, but it is close. It waits for a moment, a weakness, then it will break free." The warlord dropped him, his massive body trembling. He stepped back, his eyes flickering with both fury and despair. He whispered, almost to himself, "I am feared across the stars, but within me, I am prisoner. My empire would tear me apart if they knew. And now only you have seen the truth." Daniel realized the warlord's hidden fear was not about power or losing his throne. It was about becoming nothing, about being consumed by the very thing that gave him strength. The parasite pulsed again, louder this time. The ground shook violently. Daniel fell to his knees, vision slammed into his mind. He saw fleets burning, planets crumbling, and in the center of it all, the parasite spreading like a storm, infecting species across the stars. In the vision, he saw Earth, his home, covered in glowing scars, his people screaming. And as the parasite spread across them, he gasped, his hands clawing at his head. "No! Stop!" the warlord roared, shoving his hand into the parasite's core. Light exploded. The voices in Daniel's head went silent. The chamber shook as the warlord pulled back, his hand covered in burning scars. He turned to Daniel, his voice like thunder. "Listen to me, human. The parasite fears only one thing, choice. It cannot command you, it cannot bind you. You are free. That is why it seeks you. That is why I need you." Daniel's voice trembled. "You want me to help you fight it." The warlord leaned close, his massive shadow swallowing him whole. "Not only fight it, destroy it, or Earth will be its next host." Daniel's heart raced. The parasite pulsed again, and he felt its eyes burning into his soul. Deep down, he knew the warlord was right, but he also knew the parasite was whispering truth. Humans were different, and maybe, just maybe, it wanted him for reasons more terrifying than he could imagine. And in that dark chamber, under the gaze of countless alien eyes, Daniel realized the hidden fear was not the warlords alone, it was humanity's future. Daniel stood in the cavern of living flesh, the parasite's eyes glowing like dying stars. The warlord towered above him, his scars burning, his chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. The air was thick. Every pulse of the parasite shook the ground like a heartbeat too large for the world to hold. The parasite whispered again, its voice sliding into Daniel's mind. "You are free, human. You can choose. Save yourself, save your world, abandon the prison of the warlord." Daniel pressed his hands against his ears, but the voice was inside. It would not leave. The warlord stepped closer, his eyes like fire. "Speak. What does it say to you?" Daniel hesitated. If he told the truth, the warlord might kill him. If he lied, the parasite might reach for Earth. His voice cracked. "It says I have a choice." The generals gasped, their hissing voices filled with fear and anger. Some shouted that the human was dangerous. Others cried that he was already infected. The guards tightened their circle, their weapons pointed at his chest. The warlord roared, silencing them. "Choice is a lie, human. There is only war, only strength. You will help me or you will burn." Daniel's heart pounded. his mind spinning. In his vision, he had seen Earth covered in scars, his people screaming as the parasite spread. He could not let that happen, but helping the warlord meant saving the very creature who had crushed worlds without mercy. He whispered to himself, "If I help him, I save Earth today but risk tomorrow. If I expose him, maybe Earth is doomed now, but the galaxy could be free." The parasite pulsed, louder, more violent. The chamber shook, its many eyes turned toward Daniel, blinking in unison. Their voices merged into one. "Choose now, human. Do not serve fear. Serve us. We will make your kind eternal." Daniel gasped, falling to his knees. Visions filled his head again. This time he saw humans with glowing eyes, stronger than steel, faster than light. His people ruling the stars, not as victims but as conquerors. The parasite showed him a future where humanity was untouchable. His body trembled. The vision was tempting, terrifying but beautiful. Yet behind the glory he saw death. Endless death. Whole species erased, stars burned out, and humanity no longer human. Only puppets of the parasite's will. The warlord slammed his hand against the core. Light blazed, silencing the voices. His scars burned like rivers of fire. He turned to Daniel, his voice deeper than thunder. "Hear me, human. If you betray me, Earth will die first. But if you stand with me, I will shield your people with my empire. I will give you safety." Daniel looked up, his voice breaking. "Safety under your rule. Or safety under its chains. Either way, Earth is not free." The generals erupted in rage. Some shouted for Daniel's execution. Others demanded the parasite be destroyed at once. The warlord silenced them again, his burning eyes fixed on Daniel. "You will decide, human. Your choice will seal the fate of Earth. Speak." Daniel's throat tightened, sweat dripped down his face, his body shook. In that moment he realized he held the fate of not only his world but the galaxy itself. His words would shape the war to come. He took a deep breath, forcing his trembling hands steady. "I will help you fight it, but only if Earth is spared. You will not touch my people." The chamber fell silent. The parasite pulsed violently. The eyes glowed red, and a scream filled his mind, not from a voice but from the parasite itself, furious and betrayed. The warlord's lips curled into a grim smile. "Then the choice is made, human. You stand with me, but know this, if you fail, if you falter, the parasite will not stop, and Earth will be the first to fall." Daniel's chest ached. He felt the weight of 1,000,000 lives pressing on him, but he forced himself to stand. "Then I will not fail," he whispered. Though doubt gnawed inside him, the parasite pulsed again, but this time its whisper was softer, colder. "You think you chose, but in truth, we chose you." Daniel froze, fear striking his heart. Had he made his own choice, or had the parasite guided him into the very path it wanted? The warlord placed his massive hand on Daniel's shoulder. The heat burned through his clothes. His voice was low, almost human. "Prepare yourself, human. Your inspection is over. The war begins now." The ground shook as alarms echoed through the flagship. Alien guards shouted in panic. Outside the chamber, explosions rattled the walls. One of the generals ran forward, his voice filled with terror. "Warlord, the rebels have attacked. They know your weakness." The warlord's eyes blazed with fury, his scars burning like fire. He turned to Daniel. "Your choice binds you. Now you will stand beside me or die with the rest." Daniel's blood ran cold. He realized the parasite was not the only enemy. The galaxy itself was about to explode in war. The alarms howled through the alien flagship. Red lights flared across the black walls. The ground shook as explosions echoed from above. Daniel clutched the edge of the parasite chamber, his heart racing. The warlord stood tall, his scars glowing like rivers of fire, his eyes burning with fury. The generals shouted over one another, their voices filled with panic. "The rebels are here," one cried. "They know the truth. They know you are weak," another screamed. The warlord roared, silencing them all. His voice shook the chamber. "Traitors will die. I will crush them myself." Daniel's mind spun. If the rebels exposed the warlord's weakness, his empire would collapse. But if they succeeded, Earth might be caught in the fire. The parasite pulsed violently, its eyes glowing brighter, and Daniel heard the whisper again, softer than before. "See, human? Even his own kind rise against him. He is not master. He is prey. The warlord turned to Daniel, his voice sharp. Human, you chose to stand with me. Now prove it. If you betray me, I will burn your world before theirs. Daniel swallowed hard, nodding slowly. But deep inside, his thoughts twisted. The parasite's words echoed in his head. The warlord was losing control. Maybe siding with him was already the wrong choice. The doors burst open. Smoke filled the chamber, and armed rebels stormed inside, their armor darker, sharper, their eyes glowing with rage. One of them pointed at the warlord, shouting, "The parasite has infected him. He is no longer fit to rule. Kill him. Free the empire." The warlord drew a massive blade from his side, too. His weapon pulsed with the same burning light as his scars. He roared and charged forward. His strike split the floor. Rebels flew back, their screams echoing, but more poured in, weapons blazing. Daniel ducked behind the parasite's core, the heat burning his skin. Laser fire cracked across the walls. The parasite pulsed faster, the voices in his head rising. "Let them kill him, human, and we will rise together, you and us. The galaxy will be yours." His chest tightened. He closed his eyes, trying to shut it out, but the voice was endless, seductive, powerful. He could feel its hunger reaching for him, pulling him deeper. Suddenly, one of the rebel leaders spotted him, pointing his weapon. "The human, he knows the secret. Kill him before he speaks." Shots fired. Daniel threw himself flat. Heat scorched past his head. The warlord's roar shook the hall. He struck down the rebel before the shot could land. The warlord's voice thundered, "He is mine. Touch him, and you die." The rebels hesitated, fear flickering in their eyes, but their leader raised his weapon again, shouting, "Then you will fall together, host and parasite, human and beast." The battle grew savage, steel clashing, screams echoing, blood spilled across the black stone. The parasite pulsed with joy, its whispers almost laughter. "Yes, let them fight. Let them kill. Every death feeds us." Daniel's mind cracked. He shouted into the noise, "Stop! This is madness!" But no one listened. The warlord fought like a beast, every strike of his blade tearing rebels apart. But with each strike, his scars burned brighter, spreading, the parasite feeding on his rage. Daniel realized the truth. The more the warlord fought, the more the parasite grew. The rebels wanted him dead, but their attack only made the infection stronger. A rebel lunged at Daniel, blade raised. Daniel stumbled back. His hand brushed the parasite's core, and in that instant, light seared through him. His vision filled with fire. He saw the warlord collapse, his body overtaken, his eyes no longer his own, and he saw Earth burning, cities falling to the same glowing infection. The vision snapped. Daniel screamed. The warlord spun, slicing down the rebel before he could strike. Daniel fell to his knees, gasping. The parasite's whisper filled his skull. "You cannot escape us, human. We are already inside." The warlord grabbed Daniel's arm, pulling him to his feet, his voice a growl. "You will survive. You must. If you fall now, Earth burns tonight." Suddenly, one of the generals, the same who had doubted the warlord before, stepped forward, his blade dripping with rebel blood, but his eyes cold and sharp. He bowed low. "Warlord, forgive me, but this ends now." And with a twist, he drove his blade into the warlord's back. The chamber froze. The warlord staggered, his scars flaring like firestorms. The generals gasped. The rebels roared in triumph. Daniel screamed, "No!" The traitorous general pulled his blade free, his voice venom. "The empire belongs to those untainted. You are nothing but a vessel." The warlord dropped to one knee, his massive frame trembling. But his eyes still burned with rage. He looked at Daniel, his voice a whisper, heavy with pain. "Do not let it win, human. Your choice is not done." Daniel stared in horror, the warlord bleeding before him, the parasite pulsing louder than ever, the rebels closing in, the general raising his blade again. In that moment, Daniel knew betrayal was everywhere. The shadows had consumed the empire, and the parasite was waiting to claim everything. The warlord knelt in the center of the parasite chamber, his scars burning like rivers of fire. Blood poured from the wound. And in his back, the traitorous general stood over him, his blade raised high. The rebels around him cheered, shouting for the empire to be freed from the infected ruler. Daniel's chest pounded, his eyes darting between the warlord and the parasite's pulsing core. The whispers in his head grew louder, the parasite's many eyes all fixed on him. "Now, human, now you choose. Let him die, and you will rise. Take our gift, take our power." The warlord's voice was weak but heavy, his burning eyes still locked on Daniel. Do not listen, human. If I fall, it spreads. You are the only barrier left. Do not fail. The general's blade came down, but before it struck, Daniel moved, his body acting before thought. He threw himself forward, shoving the warlord aside. The blade missed its mark, sparks flying as it struck stone. The rebels roared in fury. The general snarled, his eyes cold. Foolish human, you protect a corpse. He raised his blade again, but Daniel grabbed a fallen rebel weapon, his hands shaking. The energy blade hummed alive. He held it between them, his voice trembling. If he dies, you do not win. None of us win. The parasite wins. The parasite pulsed violently. Its voice filled his skull. Do not fight, human. Embrace. We can give you more than him, more than them all. Power to shape the stars, eternity. Daniel's grip weakened, his knees shook. Visions slammed into him. He saw himself standing above the galaxy, fleets bowing, worlds burning in his name. Humanity ascended beyond mortality, but he also saw the cost. Every human face twisted, infected, their glowing eyes no longer their own. He screamed, shaking his head. No, I will not be your puppet. The warlord struggled to his feet, leaning on his massive blade. His voice thundered even through his pain. That is why you were chosen, human, not by me, not by them, but by fate. Free will is your weapon, and use it. The general lunged again, but this time Daniel blocked. Sparks lit the chamber. The parasite roared inside his mind, trying to crush his will. But Daniel held firm. Every thought of Earth, of his people, gave him strength. The parasite screamed, the walls shaking, its eyes all flaring red. If you reject us, you will burn with him. Your world will burn. Daniel's eyes hardened, his voice steady now. Then we burn free. He turned and drove the stolen blade into the parasite's core. Light exploded. A sound like 1,000 voices screaming at once filled the chamber. The rebels staggered back, clutching their heads. The parasite writhed, its eyes shattering one by one. The warlord roared, his scars blazing brighter than ever. His massive hand pressed against the core beside Daniel's blade. Together, human. Together we end this. Daniel screamed with him, pushing the blade deeper. The parasite wailed, its whispers turning into desperate cries. No, human. You were ours. You were chosen. The core cracked. Light poured out like a dying sun. The entire chamber shook, walls splitting, the flagship groaning as if the ship itself was alive and breaking. The traitorous general lunged one last time, but the warlord spun, his blade tearing through him in a final strike. The rebel leader fell lifeless, his weapon clattering against the floor. Daniel's vision blurred, the parasite's light burning his skin. He felt like his body would tear apart, but he pushed harder, whispering through his teeth. Not my world, not my people. With a final scream, the core shattered. Light consumed everything, and then silence. When Daniel opened his eyes, he was lying on the broken floor. Smoke filled the chamber. The parasite's body was gone, its eyes extinguished. The warlord stood over him, scarred, bleeding, but alive. His armor cracked, his strength weakened, yet his eyes still bow. And he looked down at Daniel, his voice low. You destroyed it, human, but the galaxy will not see it as victory. They will see Earth as threat. You faced what even empires could not. Now they will fear you, more than they fear me. Daniel's breath was heavy, his body weak. Fear is better than chains, he whispered. The warlord gave a grim smile, then staggered toward the throne. Remember this, human. You saved your world today, but the stars will never forget, and fear is the seed of war. Daniel looked around the ruins of the chamber, the parasite gone, the rebels dead or fled, the warlord barely standing, and he understood. This was not the end, it was the beginning. As the flagship trembled and alarm screamed, Daniel whispered to himself, Earth is no longer just another world, it is a name written in fear. And in that fear, he knew, the galaxy's eyes had turned toward humanity, and the real war had only just begun.